You are live. Good evening, LinkedIn. Dave Wilson, the Ring of Hire Show. Hey, tonight I got my great friend here, Matt Lunny, all the way in Florida. You're still in Florida, right, Matt?
Still in Florida, yep.
It's got to be freaking hot, I heard, down there.
It was actually it was like 75 was the high on Saturday. I went golfing. It was amazing.
Oh, that's not too bad. Hey, tonight, everybody, we're gonna do a great talk about retention and the cost of not having staff versus having it fully staffed. And we'll be right back after this video. Well, Matt, that pretty sums up the show.
I don't know how to follow that that thing. And I mean, I know you sent it to me before you used it. And I've seen it on a couple other shows. I just love it, man. It's intense, but
every little word that you talk about, we've talked about on the show, has been on there. You know, you just write it down from LinkedIn. We have Shelly in the house tonight already. How you doing, Shelly? She's out here, and we got Rob. I
saw Rob pop up.
Yeah. Hey, tonight, Matt, we're not, I always thank you for coming on the show. It's nice to have you on here. We kind of get to know, and I want to give you breaking news. With OpenAI, my trees have limited 2-3 pages versus 15 pages all over the place.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
They're going to teach you to copy and paste and just keep it up on a second screen.
Yeah, that's it. You don't have to worry about it. Hey, tonight, a lot of this stuff about attracting talent and, keeping your retention, keeping it, you want to keep the employees and everything, why they leave, what would you say you think your top reason people leave a company?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would definitely say bad culture is going to be the first one. One bad apple spoil a bunch. Not paying people what they deserve. When the market's going up and the economy's going down and it costs more to live, people need to make more money, and their other option is, if they don't get a raise, is to go find work somewhere else. I know me and you have talked about bad bosses. We had a whole show on that one. Poor management.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. That one is.
Training's huge too.
Yeah, and when I look at that, you always say to yourself, how can you keep your employees? What are good ways to do that? When we say like salary, if you go right on Indeed or Career Builder, any of them, you can actually see on there, if you run the reports right, you can see where you're median, low median, medium, high. It gives you a real idea whether or not if you're going to be in trouble. If you're paying, let's just say in logistics, if you're paying $19, $20 and the other company comes up as 15, you're going to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people will stay for a good culture, but when it's that big of a difference in the pay gap, something needs to be fixed.
And there's Rob says, I totally agree, Matt. I think that was with the video. Wow, we got Stephen Farrell announced. This is the man. Steve, I got to give Steve breaking news. Steve, I used to write 15, 20 trees for the show, but now with OpenAI, it has come down to 3 pages. That's it. So thanks, Steve. Steve is probably one of the experts in this now, Matt.
Yeah, you're telling me that the last time he jumped on the show that all his LinkedIn posts are AI generated. I've played with it. A couple of mine are. I'm not telling you which ones.
He spends enough money on there. They even pay for answer his emails for him all the time. They, they answer his email. He says, "Yeah, buddy, AI is our future, and here today." But when I thought about, we talk about culture all the time, right? And how do you want to show it? Like they were talking about social media. Social media, it's harder than it was. We were just talking about that. Trying to learn how to do a proper post of culture. Because what is culture? What do you want to see? What would make Matt Lunny go, wow, company culture? Do you know what I mean? Like what drives you towards it when you're looking?
So that's one of my favorite questions because I've talked with people and they're like, oh, tell me about your company culture. And they're like, hey, we have ice cream trucks on Fridays, or we have, you can wear jeans if you donate $5 to this charity. Great benefits. That's not culture. Culture is including everybody in what you do. One of my favorite questions to tell people to ask is, can you give me an example of a time when an employee had an idea that was good and the company implemented it?
Right.
Because that means that company cares about you and your ideas, and there's going to be room to grow with the company. Growth is huge, too, when it comes to culture.
It does. And we have Lamin Joara. I think I got that. Hello, good man. How are you doing? How you doing, Lamin? And Steve says, great point, Matt. And you hit it, but it's still not something I'm looking at. Like I try to think of, what do I see? And it comes back to some of the companies I know, their hiring process. They really take it seriously. They don't mess around, man. They give the swag, they give everything. And not all the companies can do this, but it's little things like, I don't know. I look at their website, how user-friendly it is,
That's huge.
And they post with families. Somebody in social media has to do that. Let's face it. They have to be able to put that out there, because I don't see, besides referrals, talking to friends and colleagues on LinkedIn or something, hey, what is their company culture? But I keep saying to myself, what is company culture?
Well, that kind of brings up another idea. The last company that I worked for, part of the reason I wanted to interview with them is because I would see their posts. I was friends with somebody that worked there,
right?
And I would see their posts on LinkedIn and Facebook. And it wasn't just like, hey, we're all here working. It's like, hey, so-and-so got promoted and the whole team came out to celebrate and we had dinner. Saturday, we did a 5K to support the Humane Society. We brought our dogs with us. And they've created such a good team atmosphere that people want to spend time with each other when they're not working.
Yeah, and that makes, I agree. And Shelly, I'm going to ask Shelly and Steve and Lamont, all of them, Rob, what do you feel culture is to you within the companies, Shelly? If looking for work, what do you look at? But there, I want to dig deeper, Matt. How are you going to get that message out? How are you going to show people? And I think a lot of companies don't do that in a way. Like on LinkedIn, you get some of the people that exactly like they're posting family picnics, at Darney Park around here. They show different things. I like the idea about bring your pet, all different things like that. Vacation time, PTO time. I think that has a lot to do with the word culture.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think if you're going to look at a company and say, wow, you got to go 2 weeks, you have to wait 5 years, those days are gone.
Yeah, those days are definitely gone. And it's funny because coming from the restaurant business, I got more than 2 weeks after a while, but you would have to take a full week at a time. So I couldn't take like a Friday off on Memorial Day weekend and have a mini vacation and only use one day. I had to take the whole week at a time off. So it wasn't always the funnest thing. And then, being short staffed or, literally having one person for one spot, you not being there for a week is, detrimental to the business. And a lot of times, in busy season, you can't take vacations. You couldn't do a lot of different things. And getting out of that industry, realizing personal time is very important
for that. But I bet what I remember, and a couple of times in my career, is when people I know when people, let's just say you're sick for 4 or 5 days, and all of a sudden it wasn't really used towards they could have made you use your vacation. They could have made you use PTO time. But then some companies will go ahead and just, the management and your team will just be like, don't worry about that. And things like that, I think really are to the person that just makes you say, you know what, I'll do anything for this company. I'll do anything for my boss or manager, because what they do for me,
Yeah, absolutely.
Shelley says, definitely social and community. All right. Steve is culture is beliefs lived by every person within the company, good or bad. It's lived by everyone. I like that. Lamont, he's like, how's life over there? I bet, Lamont, where are you from? At least we got to know where you're from. But you must not be in the United States, because how is life over there? But to Shelley's point, definitely social and community. I can see a lot. That 5K run is all over the place.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you want to enjoy the time you're spending, 40, 45 hours a week at work. You want to enjoy the time that you spend with people that you like. It's nothing worse than walking into a place and not getting along with the people there, having different, goals in mind, and you're not working towards the same thing.
That's what I mean. And I think getting that message out, again, it's just so much harder nowadays that you really need to have somebody within the company, or even, sometimes you need to talk to your employees, get the word out there, post something good on social media. Just because you work for a company, everybody says, I don't want them to go into my social media. I get that. I still feel those days are gone, because if somebody wants to find something out about Shelley, Steve, anybody on here, you can find out anything you want, but I still feel you need to get somebody and get the word out on what you're trying to sell, because like Shelley says, flex time if you leave early instead of PTO time, making up the hours.
I like that.
That one, that I will. And again, those things are really great. And then you got that, I'm going to be the devil's advocate. And then you got that person on here that just over abuses it.
Absolutely. There's always somebody that takes the good thing away.
They will. And then all of a sudden everything's going great. You can do that. And then all of a sudden they'll put a memo out. So, no more doing this. It's because of that one or two people that do that constantly all the time. But my goal is trying to figure out, how do you get it out there to sell it to the candidates, to besides me and you saying, hey, I love the company I work for. Why? Again, why? And we talked about streamlining. I like this about job descriptions and job expectations. What is it? The job expectations to me I think it's underrated. I don't think a lot of people know everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another great interview question I like to coach people on asking is, what are my expectations? What does my first week look like? What does, 60 days look like? What does 6 months look like? Because there's always going to be a learning curve. Even if you've done a similar job, every company's going to be a little bit differently. And it's something that boils my blood in this industry of, you spend 30, 40 days to find somebody, before they walk in the door. The average is, I think, 36 days right now.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's one of the sites that I saw. From the time you post a job to the time somebody walks in the door, and they said the average spending average is like $4,500. And then you give them 2 months, and you want to walk them out the door, and it's like you hardly gave the person enough time to walk in the door, get comfortable, and truly start learning. And especially when
that stuff gets around. That goes around. That, like you just said, the stuff that happens, it gets put out on LinkedIn. They put it out on reviews. They put out everything when they do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And working for a third-party staffing company, unfortunately, a lot of times they get that bad rap of the ones that weren't able to keep the people because, they work through us on contracts and whatnot.
That Vishnu says, Nair, good evening. How you doing? I'm terrible with names. What would you think here? Vishnu?
Vishnu Nair.
There's no there. Steve says, when people ask me about my company culture, I share my deepest heartfelt story of what our culture means to me and how I live it. I believe you, Steve. Steve's an honest person. I just know from, He's very honest when it comes to that. And there again, I believe it comes down to your management team. I mean, let's face it, company culture is great, but I look at company culture within the office, within your team, because that's who you're facing every day. So that's your face of your company culture is your team. You know,
Yeah, absolutely.
we all can email HR, we all can email different leads, but everybody within your office, and putting that information out there and explaining. I think when I said about job expectations, you got to really be honest in the beginning. You need to be honest. Everything, tell them about the job. Like you said, what about the first 30 days? Well, you can really, if you really need somebody and you're going to be like, oh, we need to hire this person. Man, the cost, like you even said, the topic of the show is having the talent. Well, I'm saying fully staffed. But if you're not fully staffed with the right candidates, it's a no-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, I work with companies, and I saw it a lot when I worked in chain restaurants. Like, you could have an office in Orlando, and
Right.
everybody absolutely loves going to work there. The team's great.
Yep.
And then they have an office in another city in Philadelphia. Nobody likes it there. And it's because of that specific office, not the company culture necessarily, but that office culture is not the best. And you can have that within the same company, depending on who's in charge on that level.
I believe a lot of it, it comes down to the leader. That's just me. I mean, I'm strong about leadership anymore. And I just feel if something's not right, leadership's got to step in or do something. Like you just said it. If it's that office, okay, what's the problem? If you let that problem continue to go on and on and on and on, you're going to be just the turnover, the cost. You said the cost of what it just runs you. And if the person's only going to stay there 30 days, Jesus, and you got to put out that cost of finding a person again, doing all your ads, all your interviews. It's like a whole waste of time over and over.
Yeah, and it's also costing HR people time. It's costing the managers that have to sit down and do the interviews time. Just doing it right the first time, and just having good training in place is going to be huge because could you imagine walking into a new job and they place you with somebody who's not happy with what's going on?
I know.
And all that person's going to do is tell you the bad things about the job.
I have seen that through the years.
And experienced it at places where it's like, hey, I've placed 5 people at this company, and 3 of them trained with this person. Those 3 people didn't last a week.
Yep. Have you ever thought in your mind who you're going to put a person with?
Usually, if I was training, absolutely. Like if I was the manager, like when I was in the restaurant business and I had a team, I absolutely knew. I would literally give you a training schedule based on who was going to train you.
Yeah.
Like I would know, like when you walk in the door today, you're going to be working with so-and-so, doing this. You're going to be working with this person the next day. And I'm going to give you the best and most positive people that I can. Even if it's not somebody the best at their job, if they're the most positive and when they walk in the door every day, they're going to be the ones training.
Well, when you put, I've made mistakes. I mean, I can remember times to where when training a new person in logistics, staffing, high volume, man, you brought that new person in, you wanted to train it with everybody, but you just put them in that place and just said, hold on, because here it goes. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, after a month, when that person's all burned out and you see it, and then you're saying to yourself, damn, what I've learned from now is I'll take that time and stop. I will make sure that training gets to that person because I don't want to have happen with me. I see it. I can see they're burned out. I'm like, man, I caused that.
Yeah. When just recognizing it's huge, but I also think, having like a chat out with people, at the end of the day, like, hey, how was your day? What did you like about your day? Is there anything that we can give you to make your job easier? Like, because especially when somebody comes from another company, they might have outside seen things that we haven't experienced with our company. And, a a lot of the things that I say and ideas that I have aren't like Matt Lunny's, quotes of the day or one-liners of the day. It's things that I've seen that work at places and things that I've seen that don't. I worked
Yep.
with a company that for years was just very traditional about the way they did things in the restaurant business. And when I went in there and I was like, you guys, I was like, you got to get up to speed. I was like, this is not going to be the lasting model. And there are definitely some changes made over the years with them, but they just were very old school about how they did things and how they approached it. And I'm like, you gotta be better if you want to do better.
And that makes sense. I look at when I look at leverage employee referrals, we all talk about it. We to a dead horse. What is the referral that's the greatest? But to me, when you look back at the cost of the referrals that you're saving, if you really, I believe an employee should be really rewarded for referrals. That's just me. I feel if they're going to give you a good employee that's really, they know the friend has told the person about the job. And if you feel like, I'm sure you could count on your fingers a couple of people you would have liked to bring your team with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, the cost, again, the savings from referrals, it's not just about, hey, I got a friend that can work. I got somebody I really think he's not happy where he's at. I think it'd be a good fit.
On my client development side of things, I've lost people because of referrals because I was working with this one company and it's a small office and there's about 12 people in it. And they're hiring just like an admin assistant / accounting assistant.
Right.
And had 2 people go in for the interview process. The manager loved them both. But one of the girls there is like, oh, my friend needs a job. And they're like, well, what can she do? And she went over it all. She's like, oh, okay. Gave her a $500 referral instead of paying our fee.
Yep. And that makes really sense. I figured when Steve comes to from Texas to the Lehigh Valley, Steve's going to want me on his team, and Steve's going to pay me top dollar. He's going to pay me the top dollar that he's going to pay. So, Steve, that's a hint when you take over the Lehigh Valley. So when he comes over from Texas, but that's the exact thing. I know Steve personally, like yourself, and to build that team. He says most companies do not see the return on investment for referrals. They lost the point. It's rewarding your best employees on their dedication, commitment, paying them for a brand ambassador. There it is.
There you go.
Right there. I'm going to leave that up for a minute. So a lot of people don't know what ROI is. That means return on investment. That means, all right, we're putting out this money. We're going to do this. What is the savings? Because listen, am I crazy about reports about tracking insights and all that? But you need it. Because you'll never make another decision. If you see what the cost is versus bringing in a referral, do you ever track it? Does anybody ever track that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a money saver, and you kind of know what you're getting also, because if I'm going to refer somebody to one of my managers,
right,
I'm going to sell that person and say, hey, listen, Dave, my buddy, wants to come work with you.
Right.
We worked together at this last place. He's super good at this, and this. He probably needs a little work here, but overall, he'll be great for the team.
Yeah, and I think that's a win-win.
Correct. If I'm of any value of an employee to you, you'll take my word on that. And then if the guy comes and interviews and kills it, you just saved yourself a lot of time of job posting and recruiting and reaching out to an agency and stuff like that.
Yep, that'll save a lot. And you know what? To bring that up real quick, I know it might take slack on this one, but not all the time. Some people think, I know the staffing companies are, everybody says, oh, they're so expensive. And I wish when I had my own company there, I wish sometimes people see what the expense is for staffing. And that behind this, and you got to pay your bills. You got to pay the office fees. You got to pay your people. You got to pay so much. And the money that they're making on it, sometimes you make money. Oh, yeah. I was happy. I was doing a dance. And then sometimes when it took 2-3 months to find somebody and you just thousands of dollars out the door just to get, Career Builder was so expensive. So when you're putting that money out, you need to see it. Sometimes it could benefit you for utilizing a staffing company. If you want that manager, and it's going to cost you $5,000, $10,000, okay? And the person stays. Do the math.
That's definitely huge. One of the things that I was reading. I don't know how accurate, but it was within the tech industry that an average tech job right now is at $120,000.
Right.
The training that they spend in that first year to get
Yeah.
everybody up to date of where they want with that specific company is like $43,000.
See, that's what I like what you
So,
just said. That's research that you've done, that you know what the cost is. So they don't know
yes,
that cost. They don't know
know
that
the
cost.
cost, and the real cost at the end of the day is how is it affecting your bottom line and not have that person in place?
Right.
Are you burning out your other staff because they're picking up extra slack? Are you, not if it's any sort of
Did you print that out? Did you print that out too? No.
yeah,
That
it's
was one.
just
That was one of
to
them
me
on
that
there. It was showing. That was
yeah,
one.
it's burning out your staff is huge, and I mean, um, just not having the people in place puts more stress on everybody, and it's like so at the end of the day, what is it really going to cost you? Like it's going to cost a lot more than the $10,000 fee
Yeah.
to get that right person in place than it is to not have them or to hire the wrong person the first time.
I did a 90-day guarantee, Matt. That was long. Woo! But the other companies liked it. They loved it because 90 days. Ooh.
90 days is good. There's been some senior roles, which I won't discuss the fees on that we'll throw 6 month on.
This next thing, I don't think we've ever really talked about it. And embrace, and Steve will reply on this one, I know, is, embrace diversity and inclusion. All right. When we talk about diversity and we talk about inclusion and talent individuals and encouraging, getting that in your office, getting that, what's a word to use for a good word to use that for that? I don't want to say the wrong word, but when you're getting everybody in there like that from different diversities, backgrounds, I want to say like backgrounds, just different type of people that it can really build a solid team.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to culture, everybody brings a little bit something different to the table, and, you can learn from other people. People have different perspectives on things. I've worked with companies where we super embrace, the DE and I within our teams, and we're able to bring in, different like cultural days and learn about different things that we probably never would. And it's kind of that seek to understand mentality when you include everybody.
And include everybody in there. Matt needs to be a recruiting and retention consultant. There you go. You got the stamp tonight. You got the stamp. Steve's on fire tonight. Diversity may sound like a woke term, but it's truly a value to your business. The most success. I bet he's put that in. He's put it into OpenAI. No, but he's that's the truth there, though, and I agree with that. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it the right way. I think it's a win-win. Me
with Steve, I consider myself a consultant. I just don't get paid enough for that part of it.
You don't get paid. So the next thing they talk about, implement flexible work arrangements, flexible work schedules, remote work options. We beat remote work to death sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
It's either companies are making people come back, or you're staying back at home. Listen, things are changing month by month, it seems, with companies on when you watch the news and you see what they're doing. And all the layoffs now, it seems like a lot of recruiters that was high there. But my point is, when it comes to attracting new employees, just the idea of knowing that flexible work arrangements, what does that mean? Again, that could mean like, hey, you don't have much time left, PTO time. It's the first 3 months of the year. Something's going on. If you can not bend the rules, but if you can assist that employee of a way of saying, okay, don't worry, you don't have to take your 2 weeks vacation because your child's sick or something. You know what I mean? That goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, in a case like you, if you have a your son's playing a basketball game, but they're traveling somewhere, and it's like, hey, I know you work till 3 just because of our conversations, but if it was like somebody who worked like to 5 or 6 and they have a game at 6, that's an hour away, being flexible and saying, hey, I'm coming in an hour early today so I can leave an hour early, or hey, I'm leaving 2 hours early today, but tomorrow I'm going to stay till 7.
Yep.
I like that kind of flexibility within a company.
And as long as they, here I go with the devil's advocate on that part, as long as you follow the rules, as long as you don't get other people that ruin it, because it brings me right back to that point. We had a lot of good employees that I would love to have done that for. Hell yeah. It comes down to that person. But then again, it comes back to the leader for allowing it also.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, and at the end of the day, it just comes back to the integrity of that person. It's like you've been gifted this opportunity that not everybody has. Because, for example, if you work, customer support call center role for a company, you're on the phone from the time you clock in to the time you leave. You don't always have that flexibility to be off. So if you are in a role where you can be flexible, do what you need to do. And then make the time up and, have that integrity to do so.
That's perfect the way you said that, integrity to do that. And I think that's where it comes down to, again, to where when I worked for a company, I was having problems with my father. I just started there. 3 weeks into it, he went on hospice. And listen, I was only with the company for 3 weeks. And they literally, I come to work, I had to leave. Come to work, I had to leave. In my mind, it didn't really bother me because I didn't care at that point. Everything, just your world stops.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter to me, even as young as I was, saying, listen, I don't care. But they helped me through the whole process. And when I got back, and then when my dad had finally passed, wow, I would have done anything. I worked extra hours. They said, you don't have to do that. I was like, no, what they did for me, you never forget it. You never forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good testament to a good company that cares about their people, especially you said it, three weeks into the
they
job.
could have. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been a hard pill to let somebody go that had that happen to, but I'm sure it happens.
It does. I mean,
too many people in leadership roles refuse to embrace remote work flexibility because they don't have the option earlier in their career, yet they presently work remote because they earned it. That mentality will fail them. Okay, I kind of agree with both statements that he has there. Too many people in leadership roles, refuse to embrace remote work and flexibility because they didn't have the option. Oh, okay. So that's us older people.
There's something conducive about working in an office with a team. I'd like a hybrid model, but working with a team, it's hard to build culture a lot of times through a screen. It's hard to train a lot of times. Even with shared.
I think you got to have so much trust. Have I managed people that work remote? No, just never happened in my career. It's always been in there. That would be one hell of a challenge when all that stuff happens, because it takes a different type of person to really figure out, like you said, how do you get all that connection with people? And you can have the video calls, but at the end of the day, I just think it takes a different type of a leader to really be strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And different people learn in different ways. If you're a hands-on person, being in office is going to be better for you than, doing it through a screen.
Boy, Steve is on fire tonight. Look at this guy, man. Yes, you older people. See, I get the cultural difference. However, with the speed of technology, and you were on the wrong side. I gotta love this guy. That's what I'm saying. Steve, you got me into AI already. I'm going down that path, But again, it comes down to getting your message out, communication of what you're trying to do. I got a couple more things here. When we talked about compensation packages and how you can find out. I really believe you need to check in to do the homework of what somebody's being paid. You see on LinkedIn all the time, put the salary in the mark, put the salary. I go back and forth. I feel sometimes that a person in a higher role, like a ops manager, a manager, a GM knows what it's paid. So when they apply for a job, if it's not on there, they kind of know. They could ask that right away or just wait. But on the other side, I see the best part of it. Sometimes I say, why can't they put the minimal and a maximum? I don't know.
I saw one the other day, and I'm on the proponent side of, I'll put it on a LinkedIn, like on the ad, but I don't put it on my posts, Because, for example, I do staffing for accounting and finance. Right now in Atlanta, I have 3 companies that are hiring for title-wise staff accountant.
Right.
The pay could be anywhere from 60 to 75K, which is a pretty percentage-wise a big jump. But it also, what part of the city do you live in? One company's looking for 1 year experience, one company's looking for 3. But I have to pay for every job post that is put up there, or my company does. So instead of casting this really small net to try and get like somebody, I try to cast a big net and see what I can get from that. It's just
By
works better.
posting it or not posting?
Posting it, but not posting the salary.
Okay, and the reason again, I'm trying to think. The reason again is
because I have 3 jobs that are similar, but they have different pay rates and different requirements. Okay. If
different areas,
if I'm paying for the job posting, I don't want to pay for 3.
Okay, I guess I see what you're saying. That's why I said I go all over the place. Like I know, for example, what a branch manager should make. I know what basically, like you said, and that. What a market manager should make in staffing. I know staffing very well, so I know the salaries where it should be. I just think some of them, if they actually put the salary on there, you might be shocked because you're not going to have people apply for it.
Yeah, I get that. It's just
you'll get the negative people and the negative things that be said about it. And
my thing when it comes to the posting is at the end of the day, like you're going to have to interview and you're going to know what the salary is. And that's one of the first things I talk about with people is, what are you looking for salary wise? And I want it to also make sense because I'll get people that apply for a senior role that don't have senior experience.
Right.
And they're just like, well, it pays $115 and I do everything there.
Right.
Yeah, you do. You haven't been doing it long enough.
Long enough to do it. Steve says, if you want to avoid a terrible company culture, never apply to a job that doesn't post its. If you want to avoid a terrible company culture, never apply to a job that doesn't post its salary. They will pay top dollar for new talent, but will not take care of wage compression in their company. Run. I'll let you take that one, Matt.
I don't think it's about wage compression. The reason I don't post my salary, it's about not spending money on LinkedIn to do it. As far as like a direct company, again, like you said, you should know the market. If unless you're going for like an entry level role and you're really not sure, if I'm looking for a job, I know what the salary range is. I know what I'm worth, and I know what I want to make. Right. And just because somebody offers you a job doesn't mean you have to take it. And just because they offer a 2-1 rate doesn't mean you can't negotiate. If
exactly right there, exactly what you just said. I love it. Negotiate. Yeah. I love it. That was perfect.
I wouldn't take a job I didn't negotiate, a salary on, unless they just took my top dollar and said, no problem. In that case, I'll do it.
But I bet you could sit there and say that I know a couple of companies right now that I would never even, I know they don't put the salary on it, but I know they pay very well.
Yeah.
It's the reputation, it's communication that people have known that there's a couple of companies around here. My company pays very well. I'm very pleased with it. I know what they pay, and I think it's great. I'm the recruiter, and they're a great company. And I would never say that, when you work your way through management and all that, it's good. But on the other side, you see your companies that, have high turnover, that don't seem to care, that they will go with those lower salaries. They don't care. Why? They're going to negotiate. They're going to figure it out. They're going to say, we don't need to pay $100,000. We can pay 90 or 80, 75 and get the same person.
And there's another.
New York did that also.
Yeah, so did California.
There's a reason Colorado made it legally. Yeah, I can see
that.
All
right, so here's a question for Steve. If I'm working for a company that has offices in Florida, New York, California, Colorado,
I know where you're going with
it. And one of the requirements is just you have to be able to go into that office, but it's the same job. Are you going to pay the person that has less of a cost of living the same amount?
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're saying. I got you.
In New York City, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So is LA.
Right.
Florida, we have, no state income tax here. And that right there is usually a 5% boost to a lot of people.
There you go, Steve. Type that into OpenAI. Let's see what he comes up with. Type that one in there, Steve. Type it in, Steve. OpenAI. Type it in. No, but you know what, Matt? I didn't think about that for the remote works. You're right, because New York City, forget it. You could have a job here making $20 an hour. There, it's going to be 40, guaranteed. Yeah. So if it's remote, you're not going to pay a person 40 for not being within the area. Why would you?
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense there. I know what you're saying there, and you know what?
I mean, I understand why they made those laws, but I also think the people that feel they got shorted on their salary, they took a salary, and I don't, if that's what they negotiated versus the guy next to them, that's at the end of the day on them, not the company. And
that's good. We got one more thing here. Wow, we hit 40 minutes, so we're going to 45 minutes here. We got one more topic here, and we talk about training, we talk about courses, we type about people need to be challenged in order to stay. They do, because you get complacent. I think after a while, if your job doesn't change a little bit, you coming in, you're doing the same thing every day, everything like that. But how are you going to get that out there? Again, people look for culture, and part of that is by culture means too about you want growth. You even said it about growth. You want to be able to grow within a company. Okay, so when you're interviewing with me, Matt, and I say, how do you grow here? Like at our company here, I tell people we promote within, and I tell them I can walk the talk. Not one person I haven't hired that we haven't promoted within. That besides like an outside GM or something like that, maybe. But
yeah,
when it comes to that and the logistics, you have all your leads, but you need to get that out there. You need to get that information to that employee, because that one employee coming in, you're interviewing, wow, this person really likes it, but in his mind, he might have been a lead before. He might have been a supervisor. This is a great chance to explain how to get there within your organization, and you need to show it somehow.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's a company, this doesn't really go back to salary, but goes into training in.
Steve couldn't type fast enough. That's why he's leaving. He couldn't answer it.
Always good seeing you.
Thanks, Steve.
Within the company, it's a technology company, and they're giving people X amount in stock that you can't cash in after 2 years. And the technology is pretty cutting edge, and a lot of people want to work with this company. They don't pay great. They don't pay bad, but they're not at the top of it. But if that stock goes public, you could be a millionaire in a few years.
And that they're the kind of things, but where it goes to that, how do you communicate that? You got to be able to communicate it, because you want them to know. You want those people to come work for you, like you just said.
I think having that name brand behind you is big, even if people don't even know exactly what you do. I work with a company out of Atlanta that has a gorgeous building. It's right by the new Braves Stadium. And I asked people, I'm like, hey, have you ever heard of them? And they're like, no, but I see that beautiful building. And then I asked somebody about it, and then so-and-so down the street works there, and I love working for the company, and it just has a great reputation behind it. And it's like, well, how was that built? Many, many years of doing the right thing. And I feel like, retention's as a whole team buy-in. It's not one person.
Right.
You got to have everybody that's there, want to be there, and, believe in what they're doing, and, want other people there that kind of have the same aspects and thought process.
No, that makes total sense. And it just comes down to, I like how you said brand. That word stood out to me. It's kind of, your brand is kind of like your same thing, is especially if you have a really, if your company's really let's just say on LinkedIn, there's some really good companies that know what to post. They know how to draw those people in there. And like you said, it's a lot of the things that you don't think of. A lot of people don't understand what a 401k is, the younger generation. But if you educate them if they're matching like a dollar for dollar, let me tell you, when you look at that salary, you're going to say, wait a minute, you mean I'm going to put $1, they're going to match $1 up to a certain amount. Yeah.
Well, then with healthcare benefits, I remember years ago wasn't a question. Like if you had a decent job, you had healthcare paid for by a company.
Yep.
Nowadays, everybody, not everybody, but most companies, you have to pay your own or percentage of it. So that's a huge selling point when a company pays for, your insurance or part of it even.
I'll never forget when you said that. I had a boss for Willow. It was called. I was there for 8 years, and he had to close with the recession. He would literally pay for your employees' benefits, the person, 100%, because he said, Dave, I can pay you a lower salary and make you even pay for your benefits. But he said he wanted good people. He paid your benefits, and then you made you pay a partial for your family. Okay.
Yeah.
But then it got to the point to where he would even say, okay, your wife works here. What's it cost her for benefits? He would pay that for what it would cost your wife to be. So it would save. Listen, it came down to it saved him money, but it was like a kind of like a benefit because he paid 100% of our salary. I mean, of our benefits. You realize 100%, man, you might as well tackle on a couple $1,000s easy a year over that.
Easy. I mean, yeah, that's a huge benefit these days. That doesn't always get.
No.
A lot of people just overlook it, and it's like,
yeah, when you're in a small company, small companies are nice, family orientated. You can get all that kind of stuff. But the bigger companies, listen, I think it comes down to, and we'll end it here soon, here's communication, branding, culture, salaries, hiring processes, everything. It just comes down to that. So
yeah, absolutely. And
but
it starts from the hiring process.
All the way through, right? All the way. All right, Matt, I want to thank you so much as always. I know we'll probably be back with you in about 2 weeks here again. Thanks for taking the time. And
it's always a good time talking to you, Dave.
Yeah, it's a good show, and if anybody wants to watch it again, just started. We just talked a lot about company culture, salaries, everything about why you want to work and to retain what you need to do to retain good employees. And I think at the end of the day, if once you start tracking all that information, you start tracking the cost of keeping somebody and really, high end versus high turnover, you're going to see the return of investment on that. So, Matt, thank you so much. And we're going to end it here with a video. I'll be right after this. We'll talk. Thanks.